Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your community ambassador, and we are here with Tim Flynn, who's currently the mayor of the city of Oxnard. So Tim, thank you so much. Is it okay to say that we're in your office here? This is a beautiful place.
We're in the office.
You know, there's some things I want to talk about, you know, as we go through the interview.
Sure.
But I always like to start by saying thank you for taking time out of an extremely busy schedule.
Thank you.
And just to say, can you give us maybe a minute bio in terms of who you are, Tim? I mean, the inquiring minds want to know out here in the audience.
So I am a lifelong resident of the city of Oxnard. I was actually born in Santa Barbara, California in 1959. And in 1961, my parents came to Ventura County because my dad had an offer for a teaching job that would pay $4,000 a year, and the teaching jobs in Santa Barbara only paid $3,000 a year. And the homes in Santa Barbara were $24,000 on average, and the homes in Oxnard were $16,000. So with now 2 kids and a wife, he had a teaching job offer, came to Oxnard in '61. And other than the fact that I've lived in many different places because of going to school and with working, I've always come back to Oxnard. So in essence, you know, I have a history that's about a half century in the city of Oxnard.
Why public service? It's so hard, but why public service?
Well, I think that public service, for me in particular, is a higher calling. And I think, you know, some people were looking right across the way here at actually the church that I attend, Santa Clara Church, and, you know, they talk about people, individuals get a calling to become, as an example, a priest. And so I think I had, from a very early age, I had a calling for public service. I wasn't really quite sure what it was going to entail, but I knew that in some way I wanted to serve the public.
I know you're a very proud family member, and can you tell us a little bit about these empowered daughters that you have?
Well, first and foremost, I attribute, my family, and in particular my daughters. I attribute that to my wife Julie, and the greatest tragedy of my life is actually having lost my wife Julie 3 years ago. But she did the hard work as a parent, as a mother, and she raised 3 girls, and of course I had a lot to do with that, but my job primarily was being an income earner, and so I worked always a multitude of jobs, and her job was to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of the girls and make sure that they were on the right track. And so the reason why I think I have 3 first of all, very attractive, but very ambitious and very successful daughters is that my wife did the hard work. And so I attribute that. I have to take some of the credit, but I give her about 95%.
Let me ask you this. What are some of your key initiatives politically in the city of Oxnard?
So what I'm, Peter, centered around, and why I even sought a position in city government, is it's to me about quality of life. When I grew up in Oxnard in the 1960s, I recall, it was probably a town of 40,000 people. There were ample parks, streets were clean, it was safe, it was a very wholesome, atmosphere, very wholesome environment. And naturally now, some, 40 years later, Oxnard is just shy of 250,000 people, and anytime a city grows to that level, it inherits a whole new set of challenges. And those challenges, I felt, were what compelled me to seek a position on the city council. And again, it was about making sure that neighborhoods in the city and the city overall, that it, even larger, but much larger now, that it captured that amazing quality of life that I saw growing up here as a kid.
So Tim, what are some of the things you're going to do specifically to accomplish some of your objectives you're talking about?
Well, already there are many things in place that are focused on the goal of raising the quality of life in the city. One of the things that I felt most strongly about and why I ran, what directly led to me running for the city council the first time, is that there was this like epidemic of graffiti all around the city. I mean, it was terrible. And I woke up one morning, I came outside my home, and my neighbor right outside my home has 12 fence posts. And somebody had gone along and they had tagged every one of those fence posts. And I just remember the effect that it had on me. I mean, it was like an out-of-body experience. And I remember calling the city came and they removed the graffiti right away. But I made that decision, and right next door to us was the old St. John's Hospital. And at the time, it looked like a bombed out building in Baghdad. So it was a combination of that building and the problems that were occurring in that building. It was issues like graffiti. It was issues like just, you know, the overall appearance of the city, and that really bothered me. And I felt, look, this is a great opportunity to do something. And I'll be honest, Peter, I didn't really think I'd be in local government. I didn't really think I would do it, yeah.
Oh.
And so it was, my first time I ran for public office was in '89. I ran for the college board. I lost. And although no one likes to lose, I will tell you that that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, was losing an election. And because it really helped me focus and really get my eyes centered on what's most important. And so for the next 15 years, it was raising a family. And then after that 50-year time period, I moved back to Oxnard because I had lived in Ventura for a time. I'd lived in San Francisco with my wife and family. And now I was back in Oxnard. I was back in my hometown, and I was able to, having lived in other places, to take a more critical look at what was going on. And that, again, led me to deciding to run for the city council. And I said to my wife one day, I said, Julie, I just have to do this. And she said, I support you 100%.
Tim, we're here in your office, and I can't help, I'm trying to pay attention to you.
Right.
And I'm looking around, but there's a picture over to your left, my left, of Robert Kennedy, and there's somebody significant, and there's a picture showing right now of it. But tell us a little story about the history of that photo.
Well, the history of this photo is that in the 1960s and in 1968, as you know, there was a presidential election, and Robert F. Kennedy actually, for the California primary, came through the city of Oxnard. And so in this particular picture, he's meeting with the then mayor of Oxnard, William D. Suhu, and God bless his wife, she just passed away a few days ago. But William D. Suhu was the first Chinese-American mayor in California state history. And of course, the Chinese have a long history in the state of California, the gold rush, and you know, the Irish working with the Chinese to build the railroad. But we had the first Chinese-American mayor, and that mayor, Mayor Suhu, met with Robert F. Kennedy. I believe the photo here was taken in Ventura at the San Buenaventura Mall. But later on that day, Robert F. Kennedy came right down C Street, and my mom, I was 9 years old in 1968, my mom took my hand, and we walked towards C Street, right where the Carnegie Library is today. And all of a sudden, right when we got at C Street, there was Robert F. Kennedy's car. So he's probably about 10 feet from me, and the car stopped, and a mob of people just more or less converged upon him, and they were trying to get him, it was out of adoration, people were trying to get him out of the car, and they were pulling on his tie. And there was this big man in the car, and he just kind of got his arms around him, pulled him away from the crowd, and he told the driver to keep moving, and so the car then started to go through, people were clearing, and then his car left. But I got to see Robert F. Kennedy there probably about 10 or 15 feet away from him.
Wow.
And I remember that, it's seared in my memory, and it was exactly a week from that day that he was assassinated at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles.
People who understand history remember that quite well,
Yeah.
but how many people know that he was actually visiting Oxnard?
He was in
prior to
Oxnard,
that?
right, exactly. So it's an everlasting memory for me.
So Tim.
Yes.
Why Tim?
Why Tim? Well, I asked myself the same question.
That's a good question to ask yourself every morning.
Why, that's right. Why Tim? And if I look at myself in the mirror, I question myself why even more. But look, I am one person that has been given an amazing opportunity to help people. And my heart, my mind, my soul is centered around helping people. That's why I was put on this earth, to help people. And so if someone were to ask me why Tim, I think it would be appropriate to say he is doing what he's doing not only because he loves it, but he's doing what he's doing because he has a mission. And I believe that he's going to carry out that mission. And by carrying out that mission, if I can contribute and I can make this a better place to live, if I can help people, if I can get people, if I can give them, Peter, a hand up, not a handout, but a hand up, then I think I've succeeded. And I'll say in closing that when you come from a family that has been devoted to public service, my dad was on the Board of Supervisors for 32 years, and my mom, of course, was very central in his, not only his campaigns, but just enabled him to do what he did. And she was so instrumental in that. When you come from a family where a parent is actually doing that, it becomes part of you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of me. And I think that in the end, if I'm able to do just a portion of what my dad was able to accomplish, I'll be successful.
So Tim, give us a little visionary in the future of the city of Oxnard.
Okay. Well, first is I'm not just hopeful, I'm really optimistic about what Oxnard is, what it is today and what it will be 10 or 20 years from now. And if somebody were to ask me, Tim, what would you want someone to see 10 years or 20 years from now? I'd want them to see that we took this downtown that's right here, we're in the middle of downtown, that we took this downtown and we created one of the greatest destinations anywhere in the state of California to come to a downtown, and that would be Oxnard. But most importantly, that we focus on the assets that we have. And our number one asset here is diversity. It's the people of Oxnard that make Oxnard such a great place. So that vision 10, 20 years down the road is a vision that we are known in the state of California for being that part of that quintessential American dream of a melting pot of people that come together and make a place the best place to be. And I am very hopeful, very optimistic about what Oxnard is becoming and what it will be 10 or 20 years from now.
I want to encourage our audience. The election date is November 6th. I was going to make sure I get that date right. And know that you have 3 opportunities to vote. You can either go to your poll, so make sure you know where your poll is, mail in that absentee ballot. And the third, again, I have a lot of fun with Tim. I actually go down to the county center and go down to the election, down in the basement, say hello everybody, and just have a great time. So make sure you do that thing that's real important for our culture. So with that, thank you, Tim. And until next time, Peter Godinez, your community ambassador. See you later.